The platform is moving at the same speed as your time machine. Safety, remain seated with your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the vehicle, and please watch your children. Please take small children by the hand and watch your step onto the moving platform. The platform is moving at the same speed as your time machine vehicle.
During your slow-moving journey, your time machine will slowly rotate backward and may stop momentarily. For your safety, remain seated at all times. During your slow-moving journey, your time machine...
This is Spaceship Earth Control. Welcome aboard.
Spaceship. Our planet has sailed through the universe of time, and for a brief moment, we have been among its passengers. But where are we going? And what kind of future will we discover there? Surprisingly, the answers lie in our past. Since the dawn of recorded history, we've been inventing the future one step at a time. So let's travel back in time together. I'll show you how our ancestors created the world we know today. And then it will be your turn to create the world of tomorrow.
After Dame Judi Dench's introduction, you ride Spaceship Earth, the OmniRover roller coaster, and zoom through what has been described as a gentle ride through human history, to reach a view of Spaceship Earth, the planet, and some LED stars. The ride through human history is narrated through the history of coming together, or more specifically, through the history of communication technology, since the Bell Systems, a network of telephone companies, were the main sponsor in 1982. Beyond sponsors, Epcot, where Spaceship Earth is located, is Disney's theme park, and it functions as much as a theme park as a display of diplomacy. They have ambassadors to greet you, and pavilions of different countries coexisting around the World Showcase Lagoon. Much like a round table or a conference hall. You can even get a passport and become a Disney World citizen. Epcot can definitely make you feel, ever so briefly, that you belong to the world around you. Yet the world around you was meant to be something else. These structures, and especially Spaceship Earth, that is a symbol for the happiest place on Earth, are artifacts of a larger scale project that never happened. Epcot, before becoming just a string of letters, stood for Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow, the plan to build a city, a home, for 20,000 residents based on cutting-edge technology. It will be a planned, controlled, and isolated environment, as Walt Disney said, and then he added, in Epcot there will be no slum areas because we won't let them develop. People will rent houses instead of buying them, and there will be no retirees. Everyone must be employed. On one side, you are seeing the city's blueprints, and on the other are videos used to promote the city by filming a stand-in theme park. No slum areas were developed because the whole city was deemed unfeasible. Yet the adjusted scale of utopia, when Disney switched from building a city to a theme park that can never be inhabited, is very telling. A world for no one, that is also a world for everyone, only if you're willing to enjoy the ride in predestined orbits. With no city, Spaceship Earth now became center stage, and it needed its own artifact to celebrate it. And so this time, to a smaller scale, a mural was commissioned. And at the opening of Epcot, Claudio Mazzoli, the artist of this mural, spoke about its meaning in a video that was launched the same year.
But is it a machine, a vehicle, a monument? In some ways, it's all of these and more. But before it was anything at all, it was an idea and a dream.
I think this is the biggest mural that I made for Spaceship Earth in Florida. It's going to be on the wall just in the entrance. To begin, I have to ask, where did men come from? Where are we going? What are we looking for? And I think the answer is power. The power of the universe, the good of the universe. It is the life, the electricity. This is where we come from, and I think that where we want to go.
Claudio says that man is in search of power. And in his words, power and good are synonyms, in the phrase the power of the universe being the same as the good of the universe. He then goes on to interchanging the words life and electricity. This language is not just used to harness loyal fans of Disney. In fact, it is quite similar, if not exactly, the language used by international organizations that attempt to build citizenship, not of Disney World, but of the world at large, to create and manufacture global citizens. And this is especially the case of the most prominent world organization, the UN, and its agency, UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Framing UNESCO alongside a theme park is not a belittlement of the organization. It informs us how global citizenship is built and how a global citizen is imagined to feel their globalness. What tools and optics do they use? They make you want to be part of this world, as one famous mermaid, Ariel, sings about it. And here is the world she is looking at.
Where they walk, up where they run, up where they stay all day in the sun, wandering free. Wish I could be part of that world.
The world she wants to be part of is a beacon of light, pure energy. No earth, no lines, no borders. Light here completely replaces life. Weirdly, it's like harnessing the whole sun. But it is damn magical to see something light up, especially if we imagine it as the whole world, a scale we can rarely feel. Epcot and UNESCO do exactly that. Epcot lights up its spaceship Earth, and UNESCO lights up its own symbolic globe, a sculpture by that name, sitting in its Parisian headquarters. It lights up on events, catastrophes, and anniversaries. Life and electricity are literally, symbolically, and emotionally interchanged here, to remind us, in UNESCO's words, that this perfect sphere, a model of purity and lightness, contains lessons for all those who seek to make a contribution to international development. International development is how life and electricity are interchanged in practice. But before we get into that, the mascot of a minimal globe beautifully breathing life through electric color changes is also the dark side of a planetary perspective. No humans or disasters can be seen. It is a technocrat's dream of life literally becoming a light switch, a politics without people, a theme park of techno-political exercises. So how does international development substitute life, light, and electricity in practice? How does the power of the universe and its goodness materialize as one? Giving the feeling of world citizenship is one thing, but its application is quite different. One of the first applications of global projects initiated by UNESCO was called the Arid Zone Program, which began in 1952. In many ways, how it was thought of, constructed, and practiced is still felt in contemporary environmental thinking today.
Of the total land surface, man has cultivated less than 1/10. More than 3 times this area is arid. Vast regions of low rainfall and sparse vegetation lie undeveloped. 1/3 of the Earth's surface. In North America, South America, in the Middle East, Africa, Asia, and the heart of Australia. These are the areas that must be developed, not only because of their vastness, but because they largely lie in countries where the need is most acutely felt. This is the arid zone.
For such an ambitious goal of ending world hunger, focusing on land that by definition is unruly in agricultural yield, resulted in a 40-year failed project. Yet the selection of these lands demonstrates the scaling of ideology on matter. What unified them is a view from above, one of the first global public projects to intensively survey and categorize land by aerial photography. The chosen land here became abstracted to recurring visual patterns of unproductivity. And as imperial worldviews were replaced, or more accurately, soothed into international scale thinking, both of them proclaiming a righteous civilizing mission, it is no coincidence that the environmental map of the arid zone can easily be mistaken for future or past conquests. Scaling the environment into a technology for a global output became the science of interchanging good and power. Yet even in the conference halls of UNESCO, where technology was considered as the savior by majority, not all arid lands could be saved. As interchanging good and power in South America was too touchy for the US, China during the Cold War was off limits, and Sub-Saharan Africa was still not in the international realm of goodness, as it was still under European colonial rule. And so the Arid Zone program scaled down to only the Middle East. In the same film, you see carcasses of animals litter a land with seemingly no life, and in the next frame, the scale of this land is measured into a square as the only hope of saving the world. Nature here is not considered alive unless functional for a global economy. It had to have value on the conference table. Sizing up the desert's false uselessness, while simultaneously sizing up its unlimited promise of potential, was an integral part of inserting these lands into the international scale. This beige square that you see presents a shift in thinking. It measures less of a desert, and it measures more of a language of promise and development trying to overcome its own ecological limits. The square does not represent the land, but functions like a bar graph juicing the land's energy to attain its goals. Scientists, much like Ariel the mermaid, were chasing this square, this blob of pure monochrome energy, to apply to the land instead of actually looking at what is around in the desert and how much the land can take. And so the chase began. To extract from an abstracted square, a bar graph, an optimal endless energy, a standard to evergreen the deserts for global good, scientists had to find a reference, as if they were surveying from Spaceship Earth, not the planet, but the ride at Epcot. And they zipped through civilizations, looking for the perfect ones who fit their standard of productivity, as if they were listening to Judi Dench's advice at the beginning of the ride.
But where are we going? And what kind of future will we discover there? Surprisingly, the answers lie in our past.
And the past they chose was based on Bibles, petroglyphs, and medieval histories since its yield suited them. Green, lush supplies, abundant fruit. When this land was the granary of Rome, when extraction followed a route no longer visible, or as one UNESCO officer said, somewhere here was the Garden of Eden. The past was patented as a solution. It became a technology to be admitted into present fertility. The past as a package allows a blind spot to happen, to overlook the natural effects of geological time and industrial and colonial endeavors that have actually shaped the deserts. This jump in time also led to blame desertification on the current local populations and their grazing goats for turning ancient forests into deserts. And so, the bar graphs either rest on the backs of the locals or break them as they force them from local to global citizens.
desert calls, offering an endless prospect of new riches.
And so, scientists acted as both prophets and military generals, resurrecting the past with tactics of war as the conquest of the desert, as they called it, began. Their global nomadic culture, hopping from one land to another, conference to conference, was a noble act, yet local culture attached to the land was not. Measuring global environments ironically meant instilling borders to measure up national values, and nomads crossed those lines. And so nations ushered in the biotechnic age, and they were eager to instate themselves. The Green Dam, or line in Algeria, which consists of planting monoculture trees as a border, was implemented on lands that displaced nomads in a twisted sense to become global citizens. The scale of the Green Dam is the dream of many current planting technologies, of course without the mention of displacement and land grabbing. In Syria, Iraq, and Egypt, dams agreed on in conference halls were built to curb both movement and forced nationalism. As one Iraqi expert explained, tribesmen follow their tribe, not the country. And so dams assimilated tribesmen into national men, meant integrating tribal groups within the global society. In the young state of Israel, as one reporter stated, the Damascus goat, known as the black goat, was outlawed as its grazing was blamed for desertification. And instead, 1,000 white goats were shipped from the Netherlands. Black or white, it wasn't the goat, but in fact who accompanied it. By outlawing the black goats, Palestinian grazing became illegal, limiting how Palestinian herders can move, as well as the Bedouins with them. It was only until 2018 that the black goat was legal to roam in Israel, yet the damage was done, and the white goat was already soaring. And so, the Arid Zone program achieved very little, yet it showed what the power of a light show can do. This time, a global to local light show of their logo with every publication pulsing another color. Yet hunger was not overcome, and deserts persisted as deserts. What did happen was that conference halls did enter the guts of goats, drew borders that bared livelihood, and life and light were clearly not synonyms. One had displaced the other. The scale of this project was both its problem and solution. It ushered the environment into an abstraction of fertility and reproduction, which was based on the promise of value instead of actually looking at the local ecosystems. Its abstraction is aided by looking at the earth as a closed sphere, the desert as a square. The view from above allows a larger scope, yet it also allows a scaling down of complex planetary processes into a single closed loop. Life becomes reduced to a definition of infinite metabolic conversions that make it seem like resources are endless, swarming from an arrow to another and can be plucked out to our liking. Contemporary environmental projects heavily rely on the idea of infinite resources that was administered by the Arid Zone program. Yet scaling for the infinite also instills other borders, not necessarily national ones. The Arid Zone program wished to harness the infinite of the sun, yet the technology wasn't up to speed. Now it's become advanced, and in Masdar City, one of the world's so-called most sustainable communities, the most economic way to clean the field of panels they have is called man with a brush. Here, many men are termed as a tech tool. They are excluded from the so-called Neo Garden of Eden, and their lives are defined and restricted by a global good, echoing the displacement of many as global citizens in the 1950s onwards. And it's not only the introduction of the infinite, but also the promissory potential of scaling time that was set by the Arid Zone program that propels most contemporary visions in environmental thinking. Here, you can see infinite water with a technology from the future that is being used to place both physical borders and borders of value. Yet instead of the past being used as a patent idea, here the future is up for grabs, even if the future technology cannot be seen or this future sea cannot be even placed. The scale of forward time now can be bought without ever reaching it, like speculative prices on stock markets that are never obtained but invested in. This can be seen in a documentary produced by the Museum of the Future about a year yet to happen, where they use the past tense for the year 2050.
Let us show you how we adapted to climate change and turned challenge into opportunity. منذ وقت ليس ببعيد أدى التغير المناخي إلى وضع البشرية على حافة الانقراض.
Not too long ago, climate change brought us to the edge of extinction.
وتحولت الغابات إلى غبار.
Forests turned to dust.
وعانت الشعوب.
People suffering.
دمرت المدن.
Cities in ruins. To move fast and create breakthroughs that the world had never seen.
بتوفير الحلول المبتكرة ومواجهة التحديات، باتت الحلول المناخية اليوم أهم صادراتنا.
We solved our own problems, and now climate solutions are our greatest export.
It has come full circle, like a roller coaster ride back to its launch pad. People and protesters have turned into stardust, just like Epcot's plan, where a home became a ride to the stars, a city into a theme park. And there might be no need to ban goats to create global citizens, as the light shows of international development turn into light shows of biotechnology. In the same documentary, a genetically modified jellyfish with hybrid mangrove roots attached to it is treated as a mile-long, pulsing desalination plant. Where the desert was once the life support for a global system, now all of life can become life support to regenerate the environment as purely an investment. So global environmentalism is now exported into future beings and future worlds instead of being developed. Instead of the UNESCO conference halls, world summits, like the one that occurred in Dubai, propose to export further and go to another planet. And the first greeting from Mars, from the year 2117, has already occurred in virtual reality at the Summit Symposium, which happened in 2017, 100 years early.
Hello and welcome on Mars. My name is Saeed and I'll be your personal guide. On behalf of the United Government of Mars, I would like to welcome you to your second home, wishing you a pleasant stay on the Red Planet. It's our pleasure to be your host of the 70th anniversary of humanity's first colony on Mars. As the guest of honor of this year's Planetary Government Summit of 2117, we invite you to join us in celebrating our past while striving to build a better future. We are pleased to inform you that a special tour has been organized for the attendees of this year's summit. Please look around the HTV to familiarize yourself with the vehicle. We do have 2.5 kilometers before we reach the city limits, so kick back, relax, and enjoy the ride. The story of humanity is one of overcoming all kinds of challenges. And for humans to thrive on Mars since 2037, the United Government of Mars had to utilize transformational technologies. From rovers and ships that can transport visitors and cargoes in the harshest environments with ease, to terraformers that will transform Mars from a desolate planet to one that fits the needs of the citizens of the United Government of Mars and the estimated needs of generations to come. As well as innovative multi-purpose robots that can perform many tasks such as mining the Martian soil, 3D printing new structures and replicating more models of itself, perform repairs and maintenance tasks, and almost everything you can think of when it comes to sustaining a whole city on Mars.
As you go around in another ride, in another vehicle you cannot control, you suddenly become a citizen of the United Government of Mars without previous knowledge. Global citizens are now exported into the extraterrestrial. And these aren't just harmless projections. Future beings and future worlds further abstract the environment to create new operational conditions. And while jellyfish and mangrove roots aren't currently being forced into hybrid creatures that function as desalination plants, and while Mars is still not fully colonized, these projections do dictate the present fate of ecologies, as they attempt to realize patents and abstracted transactions into today's reproduction of life. And so, to keep playing between prophets and generals, to harness the full energy of squares on maps, the world, the sun, jellyfish, Mars, That might mean new light shows are coming along the way that we might not be able to fathom.
This poem is called Never Again the Same. Speaking of sunsets, last night's was shocking. I mean, sunsets aren't supposed to frighten you, are they? Well, this one was terrifying. People were screaming in the streets. Sure, it was beautiful, but far too beautiful. It wasn't natural. One climax followed another and then another until your knees went weak and you couldn't breathe. The colors were definitely not of this world. Peaches dripping opium, pandemonium of tangerines, inferno of irises, plutonian emeralds, all swirling and churning, swabbing like it was playing with us, like we were nothing, as if our whole lives were a preparation for this for which nothing could have prepared us, and for which we could not have been less prepared. The mockery of it all stung us bitterly, and when it was finally over, we whimpered and cried and howled, and then the streetlights came on as always, and we looked into one another's eyes, ancient caves with still pools, and those little transparent fish who have never seen even one ray of light, and the calm that returned to us was not even our own.
Thank you. Thank you.